there is an element of logical thinking. You cannot give up rationality, you cannot give up reasoning. But at the same time, it is not just reasoning by itself. You need to blend it, you need to marry it with intuition. So, this coming together of intuition and logical thinking leads to creativity. Now, as an example of a new idea, Leonardo da Vinci, the creator of the famous painting Mona Lisa and the Smile, was also the creator of the contact lens. Now, there is evidence that back in 1500, he found that the best way to correct poor vision was to put a short water-filled tube sealed at the end of the flat lens against the eye. And this kind of an experiment led to the present modern day contact lens. So you imagine this one person, Da Vinci, Italian, and his creativity was evident in his paintings, which was definitely in the field of art. There is a different discipline altogether. But at the same time, he is the father of the contact lens, modern day contact lens, because he began that experiment which led to the invention of contact lens. And this is in the field of science, in the field of opticals. So you see one man expressing creativity across two different disciplines, and he came up with a new idea. So creativity in this case manifests itself as a new idea. So and it gave him a good result, and the world enjoys that product. Then coming to spontaneity, taking up spontaneous actions. In 1904, Arnold Fornershoe, an ice cream vendor, exhausted all his paper dishes while serving ice cream to customers at a fair. Luckily, he was then standing opposite to a baker who was selling thin waffles, those biscuit-like products, thin waffles. Now, history has it that he bought a few waffles, twisted them into cones, and scooped ice creams into them. And then we have the ice cream cone with us. The ice cream cone was born. Now, this is a very spontaneous example of a very spontaneous action without thinking. I'm sure that day when he came to sell his ice cream also, he didn't think of this idea, but necessity is the mother of invention. That's what Thomas Edison said once. And you see how this person, Arnold, thought of a spontaneous way out, and then that led to a very creative product called the ice cream, cone ice cream. Today we have the cone ice cream, and it does because of a person who was so creative and so spontaneous in his difficulty. That's an expression of creativity. And then you have another example of how you can change your inner self. The mindset can be changed. Your inner lifestyle can change. Your attitude can be changed. I have a small saying there: a first-rate soup is more creative than a second-rate painting. The best of creative products, be it a soup or be it a painting, they're any day, they're a very standard kind of a creative product is an expression of greater creativity than a second-rate kind of a creative product. So the quality of creative product also is that is dependent on how much of intuition and how much of creative impact you make on that particular innovation. Now this lady, Jean Niederich, she was fat. She tried a lot of dieting formulas, but she was fond of eating, but none of them helped her to lose weight. Finally, she figured out that the best way to lose weight was to change her attitude towards herself and food. And she decided the tastiest item could be feeling thin. Nothing tastes as good as being thin. So when she started telling herself that way, her entire mindset changed, and she chose the right food, and she ate the right amount of quantity, and her whole lifestyle changed, and she lost her weight, and thus began a whole new approach to shedding weight. This belief that one can lose weight by thinking differently about oneself. Now, very often we must have, people must have had difficulty giving up smoke or some other bad habit, but some bad experience pushes you to tell yourself that no, you need to overcome this habit, and you make some little adjustments. Basically, these adjustments make you change your mindset. You begin to think differently, and then it becomes easy for that person to give up that negative habit or a bad habit. So this is again an expression of creativity when you are trying to change your inner self. The habits, changing bad habits, also, it calls for changing in mindset basically, because thinking affects your habits. Let me move on. Another perspective to creativity is, I've put down here in this slide, one can be creative through visioning, by looking at certain things which everybody cannot see in the present, slightly into the future, visioning, not only visualizing but also visioning. That's why they say we need visionary leaders who can see the future, not just leaders who can lead, but lead to what? Lead towards a vision. So visioning is important. And then modifying anything that is existing presently, improvisation, that is also creativity. Exploring the unexplored, or exploring differently an already explored field. All these are manifestations of creativity. I'll give you some examples here also. In 1961, John F. Kennedy shared his vision with the nation. And what was the vision? He had a dream that within the next 10 years, the United States would send a man to the moon. And it happened. By the time Neil Armstrong finally took his giant leap for mankind, Kennedy's vision had become the vision of the nation. So this is strong, impactful, very resolute kind of a thinking about a future vision, a vision that is not presently available to your mind's eye, but in the mind's eye you are able to see that vision, and backed up with enough discipline, enough kind of a resourcefulness, this vision will be manifest. And it happened in many people's case. I've just given you one example here. Gandhi just thought that you can always succeed in making the British weak by simply not reciprocating violence. That's a vision in itself. It's a very creative tool that he used. Civil disobedience and total non-cooperation was a very creative weapon against the British army, British administration. That's a very unique and a creative weapon which he unleashed, and then it did the trick. The Britishers were totally demoralized, and paved way for the evacuation of the country. What they did while leaving is a different story, but they had to leave. And this inspired many others, like Nelson Mandela and others. This kind of it's a technology in itself. This technique of Gandhi is a very creative technique. So he saw what others did not see. The humbling of the British through a moral power, which that man could envision. And he spread that vision among the great masses of people, and people just went and got hit. did not reciprocate. That actually drove the somewhere it crippled the British, and they had to leave. Now it's a very creative expression, visioning. Plenty of other examples. We also mentioned about exploring new ways of doing things. In 1948, a Swiss mountaineer was troubled by the prickly burrs that tightly clung onto his socks. A mountaineer, obviously, many things keep clinging to their socks and pants. As he sat tearing them off, an idea struck him. When he was trying to pull those prickly burrs, an idea struck him. He studied the burrs' clinging properties and invented a fastener that made the zipper obsolete. Came up with the idea to innovate a fastener that would replace a zipper. A zipper became an obsolete. That was the invention of the Velcro, which we all use today. Every day, so many of us use in so many things, purse or even shoes. Instead of the lace, you have the Velcro belt, which will secure your foot tightly inside the shoe. And this man's name was George Maestri. Now he is exploring an idea. It's not a great invention like the aeroplane or Edison's bulb or a rocket or a Wright brothers aeroplane or Bates television. It's a very small thing, but it's effective even today. Even today we use. Right now in your own homes, there are many things which are held by the Velcro. He was just a mountaineer, and his creative process became active when he saw this problem when he was trying to remove those burrs. So he said, why not use this property for a better reason? That's how the Velcro was born. Now that's exploring and manifested creativity and modifying existing things. This is another area where you will find the creative juices flowing. In the 1850s, a 17-year-old tailor noticed that cloth trousers of miners wore off very quickly. I'm not sure which part of Europe was this, or maybe States, but mine workers, they were, because of the rough nature of their work, their clothes were getting worn very easily, very quickly. And then this tailor started stitching overalls made of very stiff canvas that could stand with the wear and tear. And years later, he substituted the canvas with a fabric called denim and dyed it blue to minimize the soil stains. Very creative stages of progress. Blue color he chose to dye because white would reveal more soil stains. And thus came the blue jeans. And the tailor's name was Levi-Strauss. And you have a jean named after Levi-Strauss because of this incident. This kind of a innovative action of the tailor. He was just 17, and that is how he came up with a very revolutionary idea. Nobody ever thought of substituting a miner's clothes with something that is going to last for decades and decades, more than a century now. And we continue to use blue jeans, not just to the mines, but wherever we choose to travel, we are there. You find people in blue jeans because that's good for traveling in any which way you want. So this is an example of modification, modifying an existing kind of a facility to make it better, improvisation. You have certain things as existing, you want to fine-tune that existing facility. Now that's a creative expression.
The second question by Jerina Sultana. What is the best way to train people to be creative?
Leave them to themselves, because when you're trying to train them, we will actually spoil them. You know something, there's Paul, this person Robinson is one of the greatest exponents of creativity. He once mentions that there was this child who was giving a lot of trouble to the parents. She was very backward in studies. She would not listen to any kind of facility. Nothing was helping. And so he came to meet her. And the first thing he did is ask the parents to leave the room. And he spoke gently to the girl. And then even as he was speaking, he started playing little music on his smartphone. There was a recorder also. And then slowly realized that this girl had a great ability to dance. And then even as he allowed her to dance, and then he called the parents, you see how happy she is, she's dancing away. You concentrate on her dancing. Don't try to, make her learn science or other things that she's not interested. And she became a very famous dancer. I forget that name. She grew up to become a very big dancer. I think one of those waltz dances. So she had that in her. So parents were snubbing that. Parents were not allowing that to happen. So best thing is to leave people to themselves to explore their own talents. And of course, our culture, our societies also have to have that kind of a freedom to, there's a pressure of livelihood is so much, and very few people really overcome those challenges and pursue their talents. There's always so many kinds of hurdles, beginning with parents, sometimes even where parents are encouraging, they themselves they come under peer pressure. All the parents are willing to encourage. So if friends are going for competitive exams or jobs, they also end up going there, forgetting about their talents. So creativity is lost. And many people, you see many of these this China products, Chaitanya Narayana products, many of them are depressed now because we lost many good painters, musicians, sculptors, people who could make wonderful things. All their creativity got snubbed. China, all because I blame the China second, but first I blame the parents. The forcefully trying to make them into doctors and engineers. What happens? You have bridges falling and wrong leg operated. They're not interested.